Right, hello. I'd like to talk about the constellation of Orion, which is particularly a useful object for beginners because it's both inherently interesting and it also acts as a pointer to various other objects. It's very conveniently placed in January, look about 2200, due south, and that's from Britain obviously, and basically you can't miss it. It's got two first magnitude stars, which is quite amazing considering there's only 22 first magnitude stars in the entire sky, in the entire night sky. At the bottom right in the diagram you've got Rigel, which is the seventh brightest star in the entire sky. And then at the top left you've got Betelgeuse, which is the ninth brightest star in the sky. Betelgeuse is a red giant, and you should be able to detect the red colour when you look at it. I mean, I've got to be a bit careful when you talk about red, talking about objects being red, because people might imagine it, or, as you know, sometimes there's artificial ways of objects becoming red. You know, quite classically, obviously, the sun becomes red when it sometimes when it goes down, when it's just about to go down. But anyway, Betelgeuse is a red star, and you should be able to detect it. And the more practice you get, you should be able to detect these red stars fairly easily. It'll be a whitish red, obviously, because the human eye detects very faint objects as white. Now, if you look at the three stars in the middle, that's the Orion's belt, and just below that, you'll see. If you take care, you'll see Orion, the Orion Nebula. Now, you'll need to use averted vision for this, basically because the eye. The cells in the eye which detect faint vision are detected to the side, so you'll need to avert your vision in order to see this, but it is fairly obvious to see. It is a larger area of star formation, and most of the new stars being formed are hidden by the gas and dust surrounding them. Except for one or two, there are one or two objects which you can see, which are classed as the trapezium, and they're fairly well known. Anyway, from the as you can see on the diagram, from the belt, you can look downwards to Sirius, which is the brightest star in the sky. Again, you might possibly be a bit disappointed when you see Sirius. You might expect it to be a bit more brighter, but anyway, that's the way it is. There are brighter objects in the sky, usually planets. So. You can imagine some people might have seen Venus or Jupiter in the past and might imagine it to be a star, but stars are always just point objects. Planets are larger because obviously they are disks, but stars are always just point objects. Now here you've got an advantage if you live in a highly polluted city or whatever. It's much easier for beginners to point out the brightest stars. Normally pollution is seen as a disadvantage in astronomy, but for a beginner, if you're to look at from a polluted city, then the stars you'll see will be fewer than what you can see on this particular diagram. You'll be able to see Sirius, and then the next most obvious star northwards would be Procyon in Canis Major. Sirius is in Canis, Procyon in Canis Minor. Sirius is in Canis Major, Procyon is in Canis Minor. And then above that you'll see Castor and Pollux, which is in Gemini. Now, as you probably know, Gemini is in the zodiac, and if you look towards the east or to the right, to the west or to the right on this diagram, you'll see another zodiacal constellation, which is Taurus. Referring back to Orion again, if you look upwards from the belt, as you can see on this diagram, if you look upwards from the belt, you come eventually to Aldebaran. Aldebaran is another red star, and on the depiction of these constellations, when they use animals and so on, Aldebaran normally represents the bull, the eye of the bull. There is another cluster on there called the Hyades, which is claimed to be sort of fairly visible, but I think you'll probably find it harder to detect that. What is easier to detect though is the Pleiades a bit further on. So you're looking up from the belt of Orion, you go to Aldebaran, and then very roughly speaking you sort of double the distance further on in the same direction, and you'll see the Pleiades. Again, you'll need to use averted vision, but it is very, very visible. The Pleiades is an open cluster. It's stars grouped together, the stars which are formed from the same contracting gas cloud, so they're more or less the same age. If you've got a powerful telescopes on this, you'll probably see, you can see, say, about 1,000 stars, but for the naked eye, you might be able to see 14 or something like that. The numbers you can see is quite fluid and tends to vary. The numbers given tends to be vary from different sources. You'll see sometimes the name Seven Sisters given to this cluster. Why it should be seven particularly, I don't know. I think there's a mixture of an influence there from Greek mythology and so on, but whatever. I think it's worth noting also that the Japanese name for this cluster is Subaru. And if you look on a Subaru car, you'll see the Pleiades as represented in the Subaru badge, although this time they only show 6 stars. A couple of things I've realised I've just missed here. When I was referring to the Orion Nebula, that's M42 as shown on the diagram. This is number 42 in the Messier list. The Messier list dates from about the time of the French Revolution, and it's a list of about 110 objects, which are not stars, but are nevertheless fairly prominent in the sky. Pleiades is M45, and you can use, obviously you can help. It'll help you a bit if you've got some optical aids on these. For a beginner, you don't need to go out and rush out and buy an astronomical telescope. If you've got binoculars, just general purpose binoculars, worthwhile just using them at the beginning and see what you can see on these. It'd be useful maybe to pick out the red colour on Betelgeuse, see a bit more on M42, but you should be able to pick out quite a bit more detail on the Pleiades M45. Anyway, cheers for now.